When you're staring at the wall in the living room and wondering whether an 85-inch TV is really worth the space, the price tag and the hassle of wiring, that hesitation is real. You want something that looks impressive, but you also need it to hold up when you binge a whole season of a show, fire up a PlayStation 5, or just watch the news without the picture looking washed out. That's why I'm taking a step back and breaking down the Sony X93L 85-inch mini LED 4K TV in a way that helps you decide if the hype translates into everyday value. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest question most people have is whether the mini LED technology actually makes a noticeable difference in a living room that isn't a dark home theater. Sony's cognitive processor XR claims to analyze every frame and adjust contrast, color, and motion on the fly. In practice, what that means is you'll see deeper blacks in a dimly lit room, but you'll also retain enough brightness to keep the picture punchy during daylight. I tested it with a typical evening in a suburban home. The lights were on, the curtains half drawn, and the TV was showing a bright sci-fi series with lots of neon. The blacks stayed deep enough to separate the foreground from the background, while the highlights, like explosions or sunlight streaming through windows, stayed vivid without blooming into the surrounding dark areas. For most families, that balance feels more natural than the paper-thin contrast you sometimes get on edge-lit LCDs. If you're a gamer, the X93L throws in a few features that are meant to make it feel like a dedicated console monitor. The HDMI 2.1 ports support 4K at 120 Hz, variable refresh rate and auto low latency mode. Those specs are impressive on paper, but the real test is latency and input lag when you're actually playing. With a PlayStation 5, the TV's game menu lets you toggle a few picture presets that prioritize speed over processing. In a quick test of a fast-paced racing game, the input lag felt negligible, well under the 15 milliseconds threshold that most competitive gamers consider acceptable. The HDR performance also got a boost from the mini LED array, delivering more detail in bright highlights and darker shadows, which can make the difference between a nice-looking game and an immersive one. Now let's talk about the everyday streaming experience. Sony's BRAVIA core service is bundled into the platform, promising high bitrate 4K streams that are supposed to rival a Blu-ray disc. The TV's app ecosystem is essentially Google TV, meaning you get the full library of Netflix, Disney+, Hulu and the rest, all searchable in one place. I set it up with a handful of accounts, and the interface felt snappy enough that I didn't notice any lag switching between apps. The picture quality when watching a 4K HDR movie on Netflix was solid. The colors were accurate without looking oversaturated, and the motion handling kept fast action scenes clear. The only hiccup was that some older 1080p content looked a bit soft after upscaling, not a deal breaker, but something to be aware of if you have a large library of standard definition media. One of the hidden trade-offs with an 85-inch screen is the physical footprint and mounting considerations. The TV weighs around 70 pounds, so a sturdy wall mount is a must. The included stand is more of a placeholder than a permanent solution. Also, the sheer size can be overwhelming in rooms under 20 feet wide, especially if you tend to sit close to the screen. The sweet spot for optimal viewing distance, according to Sony's recommendations, is roughly 1,012 feet. If your couch is closer than that, you might start noticing pixelation or the screen door effect, even though the panel is 4K. It's a practical point that many retailers don't highlight until after the purchase. So, who should walk away with this TV? If you have a dedicated home theater room or a spacious living area where you can sit back 10 feet or more, and you plan to use it as a primary gaming display for a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, the X93L gives you a strong combination of HDR performance, low latency, and a future-proof HDMI 2.1 connection. It also makes sense if you're a streaming enthusiast who values a unified interface and wants the occasional high-bitrate movie night without juggling external devices. On the flip side, if your space is more modest, you're on a tight budget, or you're primarily watching older cable TV and 1080p content, you might be better off with a smaller, less expensive OLED or QLED that still delivers excellent picture quality without the need for a massive panel. In terms of practical strengths, the TV shines where it matters. The mini LED backlight delivers impressive contrast that holds up in both dark rooms and bright ambient light. The cognitive processor XR does a good job of balancing color accuracy and motion handling without excessive artificial sharpening. The HDMI 2.1 suite future-proofs the unit for next-gen consoles and high frame rate content. And the integrated Google TV platform keeps everything in one place, reducing the need for multiple streaming sticks.